What's that, Daniel?
Right.
Oh.
It's just
Oh.
4 lines from the top. It says it's four lines from the bottom on Kufay Nala. So, Kol Zehu B'chinas Yispashtus Ha'er Levad. All knowledge is in the aspect of Hispashtus Ha'er. Aval B'chinas Etzem Ha'er, but in the aspect of the Etzem Ha'er, there is no knowledge or comprehension at all. Even in the highest madrigas, such as Atzilus and any place. And now, since we have struggled through these turbulent waters, so now it behooves us to try to pin this down. What's his Pashtus Ha'er and Bechinas Etzem Ha'er. Oir is not etzem, as we discussed. Oir is an emanation from the etzem. As a matter of fact, what we're learning in this mimer, that it's a creation from the etzem. But nevertheless, there is an aspect in oir that's called etzem oir. And to whatever extent we understand it, it's worth going there for a moment. Oir, in general, the word oir carries a very unique message. Distinct in contrast to koyach, and ability and capability and ownership, what not. Oir has a very unique meaning. And as we discussed many times over, and this morning, that, for example, that a human being has a quality that's called oir. Where do we see that? We see the fact that the human being, in his home, he is present everywhere in his home, automatically. Just like the sun is present everywhere that's exposed to the sun, automatically. The human being is present everywhere that's exposed to him. This is like in his property. And even not in his property, but then it's a different kind of exposure, of presence. This we discussed many times. What, taking from the human being, since we're all, or Hashem, human being, what does it mean that he's present everywhere in his home? How? In what sense? In other words, please follow me a little bit. Like you said over here, that shoylem in ho'etzem inyan ha'agilui.
I'm sorry, what's the expression you just said?
We just read, I'm going back in this page that we remove, we are negating from the Atzmus, the Ifan HaGiluyim. The human being is present in his home, and they say he's present in his home automatically and everywhere. And as a result of that, no one is allowed to intrude into the home without his permission. That is, when a person does enter his home without his permission, is he intruding? Is he an intruder only if the no owner drives him away, says, "Get out of here," or if he doesn't say anything? He doesn't even know that he's there. You follow my question?
Yeah.
So we're saying he doesn't have to say anything. This is why we discussing all the time between a person's home ownership and a lion who is also declaring, so to speak, his turf. And a lion declares his turf by chasing all intruders immediately. But a human being doesn't have to chase anybody. If he doesn't chase, you're still an intruder. Right?
Mm-hmm.
What is this? If he doesn't say anything, what is present?
Or
Oil. What is this oil? How do we identify this oil? Even though there is no efane hagiluim, in other words, there's no active pursuit, declaration of this oil, and yet it is present. So let us go. We did already before. Let's go step by step and understand what this oil is and where it's coming from. Essentially, thank you, Floyd. Essentially, we said that this oil is based and is rooted in the phenomenon
Call from New York. Call from New York.
the phenomenon that God,
Can I answer the phone?
yes please, had assigned the world to the human being. And initially when the human being was being created, God has planned for the human being's creation. And he said, let us make a human being. Nasa or the Betzal Melekid Musaim. He will be reflective of us. Kid Musaim. In other words, his stance, his quality will be not that of a created, but that of the creator. Kid Musaim like us, above creation. And he will rule the world. That's a passing in the Chumash. And he says, ultimately Hashem says, Pru'urvu miluz ha'aretz v'chivshuha, be fruitful and multiply, fill the earth and capture it. In other words, the human being has the right, the divine right, assignment, to capture the world and make it human. Make it his. By this divine declaration, the human presence in the world is not due to any action on his part.
So what?
It's not due to any action.
What is not due to any action?
His presence and his jurisdiction of the world is not due to any action of his part, on his part. Okay. So, and then again, we want to be shoyle lifan agilim. Yes, it is not due to any action of his part, but it is due to the godly action, because God has given him this task, has assigned it to him. But but we have to reflect that God has put him in charge of the world. Whose world? God's world. In other words, the very existence of the world, which was created by God, was so designed and so created that the human being is the owner of the world. The human being and the world is one thing, like we said many times. The world without the human being is not worth to pay attention to. It's nothing. The human being is the one who complements the world and puts it in a category of reality. The human being represents, as we said, he represents not a human presence, a godly presence in the world.
I'm afraid maybe I missed something, because you were saying like kind of both ways. And first of all, I don't remember what exactly you said, but I also, I mean, I know that we're talking here about human presence in the world, how it's reflective of God's presence in the world, in the world that God's created. But am I missing something?
No. He represents the godly presence in the world. This Inyan, that the human being owns the world by godly declaration, this goes into the category of etzem. Etzem means essential, primary, which means that there are no two steps. First there's the world, and then there's a human being. And then the human being captures the world. And the world is something which is unique from the human being, and the human being captures it. His presence automatically engulfs and transforms the world by his presence.
Mm.
The whole world is defined by the fact, what is the world? There's a human being there. This is what makes the world the world. Not with etzem. The human being has an etzem presence in the world. As I said, his very presence in the world automatically already has an effect on the world. Not an effect, a profound effect. Gives the world a presence and meaning.
Again, his presence and the presence of the world is undividable.
Right. Because take him away, the world is not a presence.
So this is an illustration of what?
The principle of oil. How oil comes from etzem.
And in this case, the etzem is the human being.
The etzem is human beings.
And
that atzmius of the human being engulfs the entire mitzvahs of the world where the human being is. Automatically, this is called oir. Because the principle of etzem I'll step away from the human being for a moment. It is still hard to catch over here. I'll speak about the sun. The sun is an etzem behiri, is an etzem bright presence. Again, be confused because of the light of the sun that travels. Please see if we can catch a point. See, this explains. The fact that the sun illuminates the world by making day, that is not due to the oil that's mispashet, that travels from the sun. That is due by the presence of the sun itself. The very presence, once the sun is here, it's no longer night, it's day. Again, the similar Ayin, like we said, by a melech. What does a melech do to his country? What does a melech do to his country? Like it says, there was a melech, the Gemara says, it has been done many times. There was a melech, and all the people wanted to coronate the melech, the melech to rule them. So they came to him, why don't you set up rules for us? And the melech says, first accept me as a melech. Kablu malchusi. V'hakach exer aleichem gzeiros. What does it mean in Kablu malchusi? Kablu malchusi means, I want to see that this is a real country, that there is a melech in this country. It's not a hefker. I can make zeiros and like the conventional rules that will rule the country. That's not what a melech is. Melech is not conventional. Melech is the essence, the essential rules. This is the meaning of oir. Oir is something that comes from an etzem in a totally unobtrusive and intangible manner. Nothing travels, like we're saying, the light of the sun travels. Nothing travels from the sun on that level. It is the very presence of the sun itself. This is called etzem ha'oir.
You said not obtrusive and not intentional?
Not tangible. It's intangible.
Oh, not tangible, okay.
So when you're calling that etzem ha'oir, you mean to distinguish between any type of functional air?
Right. Or his pashus ha'oir. Right, when the sun is mispashet and makes things visible, that's his pashut. That's how.
And this etzem air is just an air which it possesses as a result of being an etzem.
Right. Air that it affects. It gives off by its very presence. not by giving anything.
This is one and the same as when we were in other places where it says Eir Shedabik B'Mayr.
No, it's not. It's not the same thing. Ayesh Dovik B'Moyer. Our point is that all oil is Dovik B'Moyer.
I know. So I thought when Chassidus uses the term Dabik B'Mayr, it means to express a quality of this air, which is even more than all air, because obviously light has to be connected to its source.
Even his pashtus oil is also Dovik B'Moyer.
So then, what would be the? Well, I mean, it's not mentioned in the minor, so it's really no point in.
Etzem oil is speaking. Okay. Well, how does the oil get here from altogether, like we initially asked?
What was that question? How does the oil what?
Get etzem. Oil is not an etzem. Oil is a creation or an emanation. The answer is that the reason that there is oil is because there is an etzem. So the union that the etzem oil is the oil as it is representing the etzem. Like we said in the sun, the oil of the presence of the etzem. Again, in our moshel, the host's presence in the house, together with the guest, has no functional significance whatsoever. Everybody knows what I'm talking about, right? There's no functional significance altogether.
The host.
The host. And yet, that changes the entire phenomenon. So that now this meal has an etzem quality. There's a host to this meal.
And that etzem quality is the air. That's what we're saying.
That's the oil of the etzem, of the host.
So how does that explain how the air gets the quality of etzem? I thought that was.
The oil gets the quality of the etzem because oil, the whole material of oil, is to tell you that this is an etzem. It's there only because this is an etzem. Only by a melech, this is the most tangible of all the Mishra, can you say a thing, Kabul Malchus. What do you mean? You're not gonna make any rules, you're not gonna tell us anything, Kabul Malchus. You don't even exist until you give us some rules. Why do we Kabul the Malchus if there are no rules of the Malchus? This country, for example, does not have a milk. It's not a Malchus. It's a country, a nice conventional created land. It consists of the Constitution. Without the Constitution, there is no country.
Pretty soon we won't have that either.
That's where he's leading it, and it's a terrible thing. A melech is a completely different phenomenon and a different presence. His presence does not consist in the Constitution. The Constitution is created as a result of his presence. Like this is a home. Not because the human being set rules how to behave in the home. This is a home because it's occupied by a human being. The home. All rules follow from that. Because it is home for a human being, therefore there are certain principles of behavior. Not the other way around. This is the pshat. The oil that is reflected of the fact that it's coming from an etzem.
Rabbi Paltiel?
Yeah, I just want to finish one sentence. And they're saying that this etzem ha'oyer, we have no inkling, there's no way to understand or know anything about it.
This is AyinBase this now it says AyinBase Diavasaga Klal.
Klar. Kan loy be'emus al-yid.
The previous line where it says Kol zehu v'kinis hispashtus is hispashtus over there referring to save it?
Should be included. Al bibchinas etzem ha'oyer. In the aspect of etzem ha'oyer, which is the oil that is there because of the etzem itself, not because the etzem is affecting anything. Ein b'zeh yidiyah v'asor klal. There is no knowledge and gam b'madrigas Yisraelim, even the highest madrigas. Why? Because this is not knowable. There's nothing to know there. This is an atzmi.
Sorry, we started off with this example of human being in the world and the oil of it, and the human being in the world has essential presence. So can we point out which part we don't know about it?
What does it mean? He's an essential presence. Do you understand that? What kind of presence is this?
He's saying what kind of presence is this that comes together with where the human being comes together with the world?
No, the whole together, not together. The whole union from etzem ha'oyer. An oil that does not consist in function, in action. But it's that represents an etzem.
So that example that you were giving was for the etzem or which exists, but we don't understand it.
Right.
It seems like we talk about it so much over here, we don't understand it.
Right. Isn't that amazing? You go and explain why, when the host leaves, the guest remains with an open mouth. What happened over here? Where am I? What am I doing here? You're eating lunch. And look around. The lunch was served. It's a luscious lunch. It was served with all kinds of sophistication and all kinds of different things. Does that speak anything to you? No. Doesn't speak anything. No. This is reflected in many, many aspects that we speak about the human being. That we quote, which we quote from the Gemara. Odom she'eino bayis ani odom. What is a bias to the Odom? A place he eats, a place he sleeps, a place he keeps his clothes, a place he learns in. All of these things are available outside of that. All of these things you can do in a hotel with greatest comfort. He can have his breakfast sent up to his room.
Well, I mean, it just seems like whenever we speak about the role of the human being in the world and how he lends to it, or that his presence is what gives it any type of value, it seems like, I mean, I
True,
guess
man.
we sense it, but I guess we don't understand it. You know what I'm
That's
saying?
You don't understand it.
We speak about it so extensively.
We speak about it so extensively.
What are you doing?
Okay. We speak about God all the time.
Yeah,
Do we understand God?
it's a mitzvah.
Huh?
It's a mitzvah. We have to. Us.
Can I get in with a question here?
Yes, sir.
I don't know, maybe off subject, so you could.
Just
tell
one
me.
second. Just 1 second. I want to drive this point home, but that's the other thing I mentioned. We all stand in daven at the same time. I mentioned it. Learn back in ethics. Are we sharing God? What kind of entity is this? Millions of people davening to the same God at the same time, and they all not only claim, but they actually really have the whole thing. And there's only one God. Yes, Baruch, your turn.
Okay, so if I can remember what I was thinking, in the mashalim that you're speaking about, like the human being, there's an essence, so there's automatically an oyer. Or the sun, there's automatically day. But with atzmus, as we learned previously, there's not automatically an oyer that comes along with it. It's rock and oxen.
Right.
So what difference does that make in terms of understanding from these mashalim the idea of etzem ha'oyer?
What different?
Yeah, in other words, is that we're trying to have mashalim that help us to understand etzem ha'oyer.
To identify as a lawyer. Not to understand is not possible.
No, not that. I'm just identify. So is there any difference that the mashalim, these mashalim are not, creating this etzem ha'oyer barotzim? Whatever atzmim they are, the human being, the sun, whatever. Whereas atzmos is creating this oyer barotzim.
Right.
It's automatically an oyer that accompanies.
Right. So this explained when we learned this principle. Atzmus does not inherently have any oyer. The human being has oyer inherently. Because the human being inherently stands for something. If I may put in some terms of it, he stands for integrity, for supremacy, for lifting up things, being above things, not being involved, not being dragged down. Whatever he stands on, like you say, he stands on 2 feet, without holding on. Without explaining how he stands. So there is something that defines what a human being is. And this something is reflected in the oil of the human being. That I'm here, and I'm there at the same time automatically. That defines, so to speak, the oil of the human being. God does not have a definable quality. What does God stand for? Therefore, it doesn't have one.
all these days we are talking about different oil from God that He chose to shine forth for us to somehow whatever understand something, know something, but it was just something that like Boros said, Berots, and He chose.
The Rotzen knows, as a result of this Rotzen, the presence of God to us is a reality. But not that we know God as a result.
Just to follow up on the question I asked, so given what you just said about God and the oyer that He decides to create, so by a human being, the point of these Rishonim is Etzem ha'oyer doesn't have any particular function. It's just the presence that's automatically spreading out in the house of the human being.
Right.
That the commonality, even though the way this oyer gets there is very different between, let's say, a human being and Elokus and God, but the common thing is this Etzem ha'oyer doesn't have any function. It's not doing something. It's there because God is there, and that's where it stops. Am I getting that at all?
In the human being, the Etzem ha'oyer is doing something, but it's not there because it's doing something. It's there because of the presence of the Etzem ha'oyer. And
doing something meaning it's having an effect.
It's having an effect.
Etzem ha'oyer of Elokus doesn't have an effect?
Etzem ha'oyer effect does not have an effect. His pashtus ha'oyer has an effect. Etzem ha'oyer does not have an effect.
The Etzem of Atzmus is even, it has no effect at all.
Right.
So how are these Misholim helping us to understand that?
These Misholim help us to understand that the principle that of what an etzem is, and the whole idea how something can occur without any functional activity. It's never identical. Okay.
And the point is over here, I'm sorry, one more question, that basically in terms of our capacity for Yediyah, we never reach this level where there isn't functional stuff going on.
Right. Right. Our right to the world, and the very inception of it, is that we rule the world and we humanize it. We do have a functional definition. But we accomplish this function without any function, without any activity, by our very presence. You got it?
Yeah.
Good. Okay, now we may continue further. And thus this is the ultimate principle that we say, V'lei yodaiti hatam. There are many things in the Gemara that says, Leyodaiti hatam, such and such is the Ayin, and I don't know the reason. Give you an example. There are several interesting halachas where the Gemara says, and Rambam Mitindan, and this is the Indian Bleitam. Give an example.
He's shofar. He's shofar, there's no time to it.
You're in the mitzvah. No, but this is not part of. You'll see what I mean later. Here, Sefer, like all mitzvahs is a gzeras hamokim. We don't know. We cannot understand the reason. There is a time. We cannot understand the reason. There's a deal what's called Maimat Shloston. Maimat Shloston means Ruvain owes $100 to Shimon. Shimon wants to transfer this debt to Levi.
I don't understand English. I'm sorry. I don't understand what you're saying. I don't understand what you're saying. I'm sorry.
I don't understand what you don't understand.
Transfer. I understand that Reuben owes $100 to Shimon.
And Shimon wants that this debt should go back to Levi. That Reuben should owe the money to Levi, not to him.
He wants to give a gift to Levi. Okay.
This debt.
Okay.
Normally, to transfer an obligation, you have to transfer. You have to give the shtar, a document of the obligation. Goes over like you can't give over the ownership of a house without transferring a deed. But Maimat Shloshta, if they're all three standing together, Reuben, Shimon, and Levi. And Shimon turns to Reuben and he says, "The $100 that you owe me now owe to Levi," and that occurs. And it happens. Now he owes the money to Levi. It's a halachic transfer. In other words, it's not that he has to pay him because Shimon told him to pay it and he had consented. It's a real obligation that transferred from Reuben to Levi. As if he borrowed money from him. As if he borrowed money from him. Shimon can no longer take Reuben to court for the money.
Mm-hmm.
And Levi can't take Reuben to court for the money.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
They all have to be standing right there together in each other's presence for this to work?
Right, that's called Maimat Shloshton. So the mother has
What's the
Maimat Shloshton, Milso Blei Taima. It's a principle without a reason. What's meant without a reason? I'm sorry. Shall I go on? Without a reason means in Seichel we cannot really dissect this, what happened over here. How did it get transferred?
Why can't you just say that you're carrying out the intention of the guy who had the debt, and now he's saying, I don't want the money, give it to him? Why isn't that an explanation?
Because if you're carrying out his intention, the debt is still to him. So that you're taking his debt and giving it to somebody else. But that's not what happens over here. He can no longer demand his money from you. You don't owe him anything anymore. It's a real transfer. It's a real transaction.
It's as if they would do with witnesses,
To an
with
entire
papers,
crowd,
with
exactly
whole,
right.
whatever.
That's right.
Right.
So you said Maimat Shloshton is a Milso Blei Taima.
Okay, it's just easier to understand it. Okay. Yeah. Because usually you would need witnesses, right? For the
You would
stuff.
need witnesses. You would need a document. You would need all
Document.
kinds of problems. A kinyan.
Kenyan, right?
There's no kinyan, just by word of mouth it happens.
Right, right. Mm-hmm. So that's how
There is in this way, daita hatam is an allusion. It's a reference to the principle of the atzmius of the atzmius of the human being. That he can have an effect without any action. You understand? This is what Leah daita. This is beyond knowledge. In Seichel, there is always some kind of an activity. This is similar to what we say from Moshe to Mokum Sheritzenu Shalom Shomhu. I want it, and that's what it is. In our world and Seichel world, there has to be an action.
Currently, at this very moment, no. But for a good part of
This is an illustration. I said this illustrates the principle that the human being has an essential koyach, an essential presence. Okay, let's go. Then only daite hatam shebechines yedai huyin lo yodav lo yisyad. He does not know and is not known. The pirush lo yoda, what the meaning of the word lo yoda, sheine b'chines mehus yodua, be'etzem. That he is not in the stage, in that kind of a quality, that it's called mehus yodua, a knowable mehus.
What's the literal taich of that expression, lo yoda v'lo yisyada?
Isyada, lo yoda, he does not know, and v'lo yisyada, and he is not knowable.
So what's the first part of that mean? He does not know. That's referring to Atzmos?
In our moshel, not example of this, of Maimet Shloshna, of the accomplishment of this transaction, the three people standing there, who are the effectuator of this transaction, that transaction does not occur in their seichel. He does not know what he did. It did not occur by their knowledge. It's a very important principle to understand. When we wake up in the morning and we say Moed Ani, do we know what we're saying? No.
So the source of this expression is also the Gemara of
The word what he said, I think, is in the Zohar. In the Gemara, I told you what it says. Time, the Milsa B'lei time. There are several things in Milsa B'lei time.
What does it mean when you wake up in the morning, when you say Modi, you don't know exactly?
It's not your seichel that says it. It's your etzem.
It's your what?
It's your essence. It's not your seichel.
You should listen better, right?
Huh?
You should listen better. When we say it, it's
It'll wake you up. It'll get you out of bed.
mm.
This is not in the category of Mahus Yodua, of a reality that is essentially a known reality. For in this, the whole principle of knowing doesn't apply. In a shayach. Okay, there's much to speak about this, but I'll leave that to your reflection. Maybe when you come up with some questions, we'll discuss them. But I don't want to, just to convolute this. There are principles in the person that he can perfectly well relate to it, and it's not through his seichel. And it's not through his knowledge, not through his seichel, and it's exclusively human. Which means it has to do with the seichel, with the fact that he has seichel.
And it's exclusively human, which means that
it has to do with the fact that what the human being has seichel.
Because what human being is sichli be'etzem, because what?
Why is it exclusively human? Why only human being has this?
Maybe that also is not known. Maybe he has it maybe he has it only just because.
You see, what we say here before is lo yadaita hatam.
Right.
Not I don't know what it is. I don't know the reason for it.
I follow, but I still don't understand. That.
So you do. There is knowledge in what it is, but he doesn't know. But it's not. But it is not dependent on reason.
Yeah, but I'm saying that certain things are exclusively human.
What's exclusive in the human being against all other creatures?
Like what we always speak, for example, like that his presence extends beyond his.
It all has to
physical.
do with the fact that he has intellect. All has to do with the fact that he has intellect. Sometimes we'll elaborate on this, but that's...
No, I just need to think to reflect more on it. To
Yeah,
understand
that's so there is a knowledge with le'edaite hatam, okay? That the inyan haidio is not applicable to this essential inyan. All right, we shall call this an evening, a Thursday evening. Okay?
Rabbi,
Yeah.
is this the type of knowledge this is the way we relate to? We say that the Matzarisha, we have to relate to Sheisha Matzarisha. Is this what we're getting at?
Sure.
Yeah. Well, the principle of Motzei Rishon is also.
No mercy.
See, in Motzei Rishon we have to discuss, because one can argue that there's a logical process that compels you to know that there's a Motzei Rishon. even though that's not what the Rambam is referring to.
Okay, fair enough.
All right. So what did we learn tonight? One principle. That all knowledge is in his pashtus oir and not in the etzem oir.
Could you say it again? That is all, but not what?
All knowledge applies to his pashtus oir and not the etzem oir.
All knowledge.
It's a very broad statement, like lessons that we learned here. It is this molecular and soil and then also all this what we just mentioned. It's very...
Yeah.
very
I
broad.
thought that we had used, when we spoke previously about the idea of the host, when we were speaking about the idea of Shalim,
Ifad HaGiluyim.
Shalim Ifani Hagiluyim. So there, one of the mashalim you brought was the idea of the host, and we said that we can't even identify what it is. We can't even identify what it is about the host that lends anything to the meal. And the Ifani Gulim there that we were being shayla was the Ifani Gulim of Seviv, right?
By the host and the guest, there is a Ifad HaGiluyim. He serves him a lunch. That's a means that he describes, that says, I'm your host. And yet, there's an element over there that completely supersedes that. That would be like the soiver.
That would be the Seviv.
What was that?
So when we say that there's something about the presence of the host which lends something to the meal, or there's something about the owner of the house which makes every square inch of it his, and you're trespassing and violating him even when he's not present and he doesn't verbally object, these are all Eifani HaGiluyim, right? Because they let us recognize that the host is an essential presence.
No, this is but this is not a fine. This isn't. There is no explanation to this Giluyim. This is oir.
This is etzem oir.
So then, not to go too far back, especially at the end of this year, but when we say that, because before the way I understood it, when we say that we're Sheila Fani Giluyim, to get to the higher knowledge, the more to understand the mahus of the Seviv. So we said we're Sheila Efani Giluyim. So what exactly are the Efani Giluyim which we're Sheila in that case? When we talk about the mashal of the host and of the ownership and of the cave with the bear, what are the Efani Giluyim which we're Sheila? We're not Sheila the lunch. The lunch isn't an Efan of Gilui. The lunch is just.
No, the lunch is a fine Hagiluyim. Just like to say, okay, the home, right? Or Beis. Beis is identifiable also by the furnishings that's in the house and all the amenities that house presents. These are the fine Hagiluyim. But the etzem of a home, like these are fine Hagiluyim we can have, as I said, in a hotel. But a home you cannot have in a hotel. A home is what's called Seviv Kulam. It's an overall reality of the human being, of human presence.
So isn't that overall reality also expressed in the fact that you can't trespass there, and that his presence at a meal is more than just his physical presence?
Mm-hmm.
So then isn't that a Fani Hagiluyim then?
No, you surely find like a
Yeah. So when you're Sheila Fani Gulim, what you're saying is that that
When you're shoyl lefan hagiluyim, that's what the program is pointing. When you shoyl lefan hagiluyim, you get to understand the hamuphlah of this oyer,
which is the Seir.
which is the same. And which is say he's actually present there.
Is Eifan HaGiluim, and in terms of the way that we're talking about it now, Havana Saga, are they synonymous? If it's an Eifan of Gilei of this, it means that when we say we're Sheila Eifan HaGiluim, it means you're Sheila that which you can understand to recognize that there's something there which
You can put it that way, yes. Lefan hagiluyim, right. Lefan hagiluyim means the means by which this occurs. Then there's the Etzem itself. And that is really a superior thing. For us to even contemplate the Inyan, this principle that we speak about, that a human being, by being in his home, is present in the entire home, really boggles the mind. And it gives a certain inkling of the richness of what a human being is. Clearly, that manifests itself when the human being assumes all human responsibilities. If he's interested just in the lunch, then not necessarily it's going to happen. But if he stands in the world as a human being stands in the world, then he has all of these qualities. All right. Enough. Okay. Call to.
Thank you.
Ah.